What it is, what it do, cyber world. It is your girl, the one and only Ash Brown, and this is the Ash Said It Show. Over 1,900 episodes, 500,000 streams since 2014. Unbelievable. We're coming up on that 10-year mark, which is unreal because, as I told many of you guys, this show really started on accident. So the fact that it has snowballed into something so inspirational that means so much to so many people all around the globe, I appreciate you guys and I love you and I'm so appreciative of all the good things that you do for us in the show. With that being said, my guest today is a wonderful and extremely talented young woman who is the author of the Cycle Syncing Handbook, the wonderful Angie Marie. Hey, Angie.
Hello, Ash. Thank you for having me on.
Oh, thank you so much for joining us, Angie. So, Angie, what part of the world are you at today?
Well, it is raging winter outside, and as difficult as that can be with all the inconveniences of driving and work and power outages, I am in this constant practice of trying to find the good in all the seasons. My entire book is about the menstrual cycle and how the menstrual cycle actually follows a pattern of seasons, just like on Earth. So just as I'm trying to find the powers of each part of my menstrual cycle, I'm also trying to appreciate the horrible, blustery winter going on outside right now.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Yeah. So we're kind of going into that first little section there. So what was there a particular event or instance or something in particular that sparked your idea to write this book?
Well, going way back, my birth control almost killed me. I was in my early 20s, and I had a copper IUD as a form of birth control.
Oh, gosh.
And with any form of birth control, there are risks, right? I mean, condoms aren't 100% effective at preventing pregnancy. The pill isn't 100% effective, and neither are IUDs. So even though I had a type of birth control with a really high efficacy rate, I was one of the unlucky few where it just fails after a couple of years. So for me, I ended up in a life-threatening situation because of my birth control. I had an ectopic pregnancy in my right fallopian tube, which ended up rupturing the tube and sending me into life-saving surgery. Of course, back then, I knew nothing about my body. And in retrospect, having known how my reproductive system worked and how I could gather my own data about my body, I could have picked up on this life-threatening situation before it got as bad as it did. So the way that I coped with that anxiety after surgery of relearning my body and missing part of my body that got removed, I coped with that by learning. And I just dove into everything I could about pregnancy, birth, the reproductive system, menstrual cycles. And even after going through an entire training to become a birth doula, I realized that my true passion was in interpreting the menstrual cycle. Once I started really paying attention to how my fertility worked, I started noticing how my fertility affected the rest of my life. Everything from creativity to exercise to the foods I was craving to how introverted or extroverted I was, depending on that part of my cycle. My period truly affects everything that I do day to day. And so I've been teaching people for years now about how you can live more seasonally within your inner seasons that relate to your menstrual cycle, how you can boost creativity and feel more sustainable in your habits and your routines by flowing with the seasons instead of trying to force what isn't coming as naturally to you. So, of course, once I was ready to kind of put down that project and focus on other work I've been doing was when an independent publisher reached out to me and asked if I would write a book about menstrual cycle syncing. And I actually thought about it for an entire menstrual cycle. That's how I approach a lot of creative projects, is giving myself that space and time to think, is this something I actually want to do? Is this something I really want to devote years of your life to doing? And I decided after about a whole menstrual cycle that, yes, I want to write this book. And I just started there.
Okay, so you took a whole menstrual cycle. You're like, you're meditating on it. You're getting to the root of it. You're like, I'm going to do this. This is what I want to do. What was the writing process like?
Yeah, this was actually my favorite part of the entire book to write was the chapter about creativity and work and how that aligns with your cycle, because I find that it is such a mirror to the creative process. In my mind, the menstrual cycle is the creative process, even in biological terms, right? You are creating life with your menstrual cycle. So, of course, it makes a great parallel to completing a creative project, writing a book, coming up with a coaching program, starting a business, entrepreneurship. All of those aspects of life, among many others, follow a cycle. You can't always be in this time of full bloom and producing, right? You need also times of rest. And so for me, when it came to writing a book and really any other creative project that I do, I think about it in seasons of the process. So for me, my winter season is always my time going back from this creative idea and really just letting ideas come to me. I'm writing them down, but I'm not acting on anything yet. I'm just letting the world show me, okay, what am I interested in? What actually might I want to write about? Who do I want to write to? Once that inner winter finishes and turns into inner spring, that's when I kind of get into the strategy piece of outlining. I'm thinking at this point, it's like I'm planting my garden after the winter ends. It's spring, so I need things to start sprouting. I need to fertilize. That's for me when I'm writing a book or really any creative project. That's when I'm structuring and strategizing and planning. Then inner summer comes around, and that is the time to really produce, right? That's when I do the bulk of my actual fleshing out the chapters and writing and just letting it all pour out in full bloom like a garden in midsummer. Once inner autumn comes around, that's the time to prune and edit and revise. And so that is what I did with every menstrual cycle over, about 8 months of writing this book. That's about 8 cycles for me of letting inspiration come, planning it out, writing, and editing. And it just worked out so well because a lot of authors will try and force themselves to, write a certain amount of words per day, or I'm going to only do this chapter this week and another chapter next week. That doesn't work for me. What works for me is managing my energy instead of managing my time or setting arbitrary goals like word count or whatever. And maybe this is different for everybody, but I know that for a lot of people with menstrual cycles, if they start tuning into their energy patterns and those fluctuations that come from their hormones, they can write a book in a lot less time than it would take to be forcing themselves to go against those energy patterns.
Right. Wow. So 8+ months or some change. That was the writing cycle. That was the pattern in which you went through, and edits and everything. So when did you know that the book was complete?
because the publisher told me a deadline. For me, I really do trust the process so much. I'm an athletic person. I do a lot of outdoor sports. And in outdoor sports, we talk a lot about trusting the process, which is really about trusting the journey and not just, putting everything in the destination, right? You want to appreciate every step of the way. And for me, I think I felt the feeling of like, okay, this project is ready. This manuscript is done to go into the publisher when I feel like I maximized each of those seasons. For winter, it's really about finding an intention. And I was like, okay, I think that this book met the intention that it deserved. And it's going to hit people in the way I want it to. In the spring aspect, I felt that it was organized. It's very simple. It's very practical. I did not want a beefy, flowery book that was hard to follow. I wanted something that was simple and organized, and that's where spring came in. For summer, I wanted to make it personal and vulnerable, so I share personal stories in there that I haven't really shared anywhere else before. And that's where I share these lessons that my body has taught me, even through the really hard parts. And that felt like a summertime for me, and I made sure to include that. And then, of course, the having to let go of pieces and having to edit pieces and make things shorter, all of that came from autumn. So once I felt like I really maximized the powers that each of those seasons offer, that's when I knew, okay, this is the book. This is the book. It really wrote itself, honestly. And I know that sounds obnoxious to a lot of people who are struggling to finish a book or even struggling to start a book. But for me, by trusting that process, it truly flew out of me in a way that I thought was far easier than it could have been.
Yeah. Wow. That is incredible. So at the end of the day, what do you want your readers to get from this book project?
I think 3 things. Number 1 is you are not a robot. You cannot live as the same exact person in the same exact body every single day because your body is changing every single day. Yeah. If you have a menstrual cycle, you might be a totally different person on day 1 of your period compared to what you are when you're ovulating. For me, I can really admire each of the 4 versions of myself that I am across the cycle by tuning into those 4 different seasons, right? Spring me feels different than autumn me, but they both have their own powers. They both have their own challenges that I can learn to plan around. So I definitely want people to know they're not a robot. They are a living, breathing being just like a flower in a garden, and they can learn how to tend to that garden over the course of a year. The second thing I want people to get out is the importance of managing your energy and not just your time. I think a lot of times in today's day and age, we're so focused on increasing productivity and being maximum production and all of that. And, I love being productive too. I get it. I love finishing my to-do list. But also by trying to force yourself to feel that every single day, it dilutes the power that you can have if you tune into those moments of, I am high energy right now. I am really extroverted and want to be presenting in front of the entire world right now. But there's also value in those days where you have lower energy and maybe you're more inward focused and you need that time to connect with yourself. And by allowing those energy fluctuations instead of fighting them, you're going to feel a lot better. And then the third thing that I want people to get out of this book is that just like there are seasons on Earth and just like there are seasons in your menstrual cycle, you also have seasons of life. I know a lot of us, we want it all, right? Well, of course, we want to have it all. And I believe that we can have it all, just not all at once. So if we can leverage the seasons of life, like right now, I believe that I'm in an inner spring. I have a ton of opportunities coming to me. There's a lot of shiny distractions, right? I can't tell yet exactly which sprouts I want to water in my garden and which ones I need to ignore and maybe save for a new season or a new garden. But it's exciting for me to have all of these different plants that I can tend to, and I'll see what happens in the inner summer of my life, which maybe will happen in a couple of years, right? But in order to get to this exciting part, I did need to really fully lean into my own life inner winter, which was, leaving a job, leaving a relationship, moving, really starting afresh and then moving forward without plans, just letting opportunities come to me and seeing how I felt about them so that I could set intentions and plans in the future. So definitely, look at all your seasons, look at how those seasons can change throughout your life, how you can use those powers, and remember that your energy is going to fluctuate and you can't force yourself to live in a linear state when you are meant to be a dynamic, cyclical being.
Angie Marie, the book, the Cycle Syncing Handbook. Where can people get their hands on it?
Thankfully, it's produced by Simon & Schuster, so you can get it anywhere. You can go on Amazon, bookshop, your own Barnes & Noble, or call your library, of course. I like being sustainable, so if you can reuse books, that's even great. But find the Cycle Syncing Handbook at www.itsangiemarie.com, and please send me a message if you do, because I would love to chat about you and your personal cycle.
Yes, absolutely. Angie, thank you so much for coming through today. Certainly sprinkle some gemstones on us, had us thinking and, getting the mind going. Because, each cycle is different. And, lots going in there. Lots in that direction.
I would love to know, actually, if you're okay sharing. Do you know what inner season you are in life right now, or just your cycle?
What inner season am I in? I feel like I am in winter. A lot of planning going on right now. A lot of planning and kind of putting things forward. So I'm kind of in a sense of somewhat rebuilding. So we're in planning mode. We're testing some things out. I just recently moved back to Georgia, so I have been kind of getting reacquainted with things. That everything has changed since the last time I lived here, and so so right now we're kind of like I feel like I'm in an inner winter. I feel like I'm in a winter mode.
Well, winter's an incredible time that a lot of people try and skip over it, but this is when your intuition is high, your connection to yourself, your restoration and healing and acceptance. So if you can really lean into that, then you are setting yourself up for a great spring and summer.
Absolutely. I had to cut off a few connections, some people that were and energy vampires. I had to cut some connections off, and, you feel so much lighter when you let go of negative energy. It's absolutely out of this world. Like, until you do it, you're not going to know what I'm talking about. But when you really let go of some negative energy in your life, the world will open up for you. I guarantee you. And all the blessings of the universe.
You have one life. Go live it and do it the way you want to. Right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Angie, thank you so much for coming through. We certainly appreciate you. And I would absolutely love for you to be back, because I know that as the months go on, there's going to be new announcements and things going on. I would love for you to come back and share it with us.
I will do. I'll be in touch.
Certainly, and much more success to you and your whole team into your new year. This 2024 is going to be a grand year for us all, claiming that. And we appreciate each and every one of you guys. Thank you so much for your love and support. Keeping in mind, anyone to tell you that you can't do what you want to do, you look them square in the face. You tell them, don't believe me. Just watch. Watch what I do. Watch me make it happen. Watch me make history. That's what we're doing this for, the history books. Social media is nice, but real life is so much better. Until next time, you guys.